Hi, guys. It
Hi.
is Julia.
And Kitty Cat.
With Working the Tease, and we are back with episode 21 of Better Than Sex. We're doing it a little differently this time. We're doing a live stream to our Facebook, as well as we're going to be posting this up on iTunes for all of you that listen to us that way, because we're stuck in quarantine.
With everybody else.
Yes, with the rest of the world, we're stuck in quarantine. Yep.
Yeah, so after a hiatus of about 2.5 years, we decided to bring the podcast back because I think we're bored like everybody else. And what else is there to talk about? But
we have plenty of time. Exactly. We have plenty of time. And at the end of the day, we've been putting this off because we say we're too busy. And now we certainly don't have that excuse.
Yes.
Right now, I'm still working on stuff with Pinups on Tour. We're still touring. We just celebrated our 5-year anniversary with a online virtual show that helped give out over 20 grants to our artists. So that was really exciting. We're trying to make the most out of quarantine.
You can watch that online, right, Julia?
Yeah, it's on our Facebook, on our YouTube. It's on our website. You can go and find it there. There's lots of different ways if you want to catch up and see a bunch of our performers entertaining you from their houses. It's kind of interesting to see what everybody lives in.
I mean, I think that's the fun of all of these concerts, like especially the one with the celebrities, is like seeing what everybody's houses look like.
Oh, yeah. I mean, some people's houses I'm incredibly impressed with. You know, some people I'm like, how can you? I mean, some of our performers even, I'm like, wow, that's much nicer apartment than I had when I was 22.
Right.
But it's been fun. We've been adapting. We've obviously pulled our cast off the road because live events aren't happening right now. And so we're kind of just waiting out the CDC and everybody's recommendations on when it's going to be safe and what precautions we should put in place before we start touring with Pinups again.
Right.
Yeah. So how about you? What have you been up to, Kat?
I am in Florida at the moment with my dad, which is very exciting. Luckily, it is a house with a lot of property, so I am doing a lot of gardening. But, you know, overall, I've been spending a lot of family time for the last, I'd say, year. But I also, on more the Better Than Sex side, in the last 2.5 years, have become a professional cuddler. Which is a very interesting profession, along with like dancing and every other weird, interesting profession I have done over the years. So you know, it's similar but different. It's different from stripping, but similar in the same ways. So
what attracted you to cuddling?
Actually, Katrina, who is a mutual friend from Pinups on Tour, was the one who recommended me for it. Because we both are what you could call nice girls in a strip club, which usually they come from the performer side of it. And they're just really good at talking to people. And overall, I really enjoy touching people, you know, which I think a lot of people do. But I think the touch therapy is very underutilized therapy at the moment and can be incredibly helpful. I'm telling you, like there were a couple of times where I've done like 2 or 3 sessions in a day and I felt amazing and I got paid for it, which is amazing. Right? So it's like I get all the benefits of my customers, but I'm also getting paid for it. But yeah, it's fun. You know, it's a burgeoning industry. I think when I signed up like a year and a half ago, there were 100,000 people on the website that I used, and they've doubled that rate in a year and a half. So like, you know,
people want to be touched.
Yeah. This is a, you know, people just want to find intimacy if they're not getting it in their real life in any way possible. And, you know, because of the day and age we live in, we can do that, which is awesome.
Yes. Yeah. Well, speaking of intimacy, I guess we can move into our next topic.
Yes.
So we're currently in coronavirus with the rest of the world. And one of the things that is advised right now is social distancing, keeping 6 feet away from everyone that you aren't regularly in contact with. And so Harvard actually released some kind of helpful guidelines to help guide people through intimacy and relationships and sex during this time of the coronavirus. Because honestly, like the urges don't go away, but we're not allowed to touch each other.
Right. And I mean, I think at this point we all know what social distancing is. We know that it's 6 feet. You know, I went for a walk this morning and like, it was very interesting because you would see people like 15 feet away and they'd be like slowly moving off the sidewalk to get away from you, like already. But like overall, like none of that can apply to being like physically intimate. Like, you know, you can't be physically intimate and social distancing. So like the point is like most people, I think overall are just not really dating.
It's tough.
Having sex, I mean,
I've tried to, I guess, like get online and do some virtual like cocktails with people. And the problem is at the end of the day, after 2 or 3 virtual happy hours, well, you want to meet.
Where's it going to go, right?
Where's it going to go? Exactly.
The whole point of you going on a date is like eventually like, oh, we're going to hang out together. You know, we're going to have sex together. Like,
yes.
Like, I mean, you know, I think I had this conversation with a friend of mine recently and I'm like, I'm not really like, I've never been into that much phone sex. Like, you know, I really like touching people, like hence the cuddling. So it's like the idea of dating during this period, I'm just like, I like shake my head because I'm like, what does it even mean?
Well, I certainly haven't figured it out. And it also, to me, see, there's a game in dating that you can't play if the first date's at your house. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's certain like, I don't know, you got to follow the path, right? You know, if you want a certain kind of relationship, you got to do it a certain way. And it kind of ruins the mystique of like, oh, I'm not letting you into my world if the first date we're getting drunk on my couch.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to being able to touch people again and date people again. And I don't quite know what the answer is to that.
I mean, I think it's just a waiting game, truthfully, because I think that you have to, we have to wait for 2 things, right? One, there we go.
Yeah, I know. It's like backwards.
2 things. You know, one is a better set of drugs to combat the issue, right? So if you get COVID, you know, you don't die from it, you know, so if they figure out the right cocktail, you know, it's not as bad. And then the second is the vaccine. Now, nobody really wants to wait a year to have sex because like the vaccine's probably still like a while away. Like,
yeah. And the other answer is the antibody test, right? Like figuring out who's had it. So then do the people who have had it, are we allowed to date each other? Like what's
right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know the answer. Now I have a question for you, which is I have noticed in terms of, because we've been in quarantine like what, 2 months now?
I think Matt and I counted it up. We've been stuck. Matt's my roommate. We've been stuck together for like 50 days now.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that I've noticed that I have heard from a lot of people that I used to date in this last 50 days, because like, I think people want intimacy, even if they can't get it physically. And because you already have that, you've had that past interaction. They're like, hey, how are you doing? I'm like, oh, it's funny I hear from you now. Like,
absolutely, exes crawl out of the woodwork. What's funny is all this started just after Mercury in retrograde. Do you remember that? Like, a Mercury in retrograde ended, and I remember thinking, I didn't hear from a lot of exes, which I normally am flooded with during Mercury in retrograde. And then all of a sudden, I was like, "Oh, the universe was
waiting.
It was waiting
for this big thing to give to you."
Yeah. So that's kind of being single right now. I think is a lot of us kind of trying to figure out how to develop relationships and how to not honestly be like lonely. It's, you know, without like a partner, quarantine can be a little lonely. I have a great roommate who I'm very lucky with. I like to do things with him, but like he's not a partner, right?
No, and I mean, it's like I'm very fond of my vibrator. We might
Good for you.
we should maybe do a vibrator episode if we do another one, because
yeah, absolutely. We can do as many of these as we want.
Right, because like I mean, like
I don't got job.
You're not dating, like that's like we're all going back to like high school masturbation, with much better choice for me at least.
Well, that's one of the things that the Harvard article emphasized is that maybe it's time to get creative.
Right.
And to find other ways to connect with people on an intimate level, such as mutual masturbation, phone sex, different things that maybe we're uncomfortable trying, but if it's our new norm for the next little while, maybe that's better than not having anything at all.
And I mean, I think you and I, just based on the industry that we're in, are very comfortable with the toy aspect. Pinups on Tour has always given away a lot of sex toys. We've been to the AVNs a couple times with edible skinnies. So it's like, I would be interested to see if like, those vibrators that work on the apps, if people are in like different areas, if they're utilized, because the ones I'm talking about?
Where the ones where I get what you're saying, and honestly, the ones where they can remotely control it from multiple states away or other countries.
Is that possible? Like, I think it is.
It is. It's entirely possible with those app ones. Yeah, it's entirely possible.
Yeah, and I mean, I also am interested to see, like, I think a lot of people are probably, like, really looking into sex dolls these days.
Okay. I watched a documentary on, I want to say it was Netflix. It might have been Prime. Honestly, I've been like diving deep into the streaming.
Right.
But it was called Living Dolls, and it covered that exact topic. Very fascinating if you're into a living doll.
Yeah. I know that I've seen the advertisements, and I have not joined Quibbly, which is the streaming service for your phones where everything's in 10-minute segments. Mm-hmm. But I know that Anna Kendrick did a comedy show where she discovers her boyfriend has a sex doll, and then they become buddies. Like, it's like the sex doll comes to life, and then they go on a road trip together. So I would be very interested if we should both watch that and then talk about it, because like
I think 10 minutes. I got 10 minutes. I got 10 hours right now. But I guess it's part of being single.
Yeah.
Now, there are people that are quarantined in relationships right now, which kind of leads us into our next study. Let me see if I can grab this up here. If you want to get into that.
Sure. So this one is from The Sun, which we know is more of the trashy magazine. It's a newspaper, right?
It's a newspaper. I think it's a print newspaper as well as online.
In Great Britain. But what they were saying overall is that Viagra sales are through the roof, which it's like everybody wants to have sex because they have nothing else to do. So
so basically, either you're single like us, which means you're finding alternatives right now, right?
Right.
Or you're in a relationship and you're probably spending a lot more time with your partner at home than you were previously, with a lot less distractions. There's no sports on the TV. There's no events to go to. There's no PTA. There's no taking the kids to school. So people in England, at least, are taking the time to reacquaint themselves with their partners.
Yeah. It says, men who need a helping hand to spice up the bedroom during coronavirus lockdown are turning to Viagra, with its sales up a staggering 400%.
400%.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I also read in that article that morning after pills
were up, 20 to 30%.
Yeah. So make sure you're using protection, and if you don't want a baby, do the things that you need to avoid that. But apparently couples are in England, at least, are really getting it on. I imagine this whole coronavirus thing has a huge effect on relationships.
So I heard a statistic, which was with China, after the first wave happened, there was a staggering increase in divorce rates.
I mean, it's easy to pretend like you like the person you're living with when you only have to see them an hour or two a day.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder when you're stuck with them for 2 months on end.
I have talked to multiple people via Zoom, of course. And overall, it seems that there is an art to avoiding the people you're living with, even when you're dating them, which is like you have to have your own life so that like the time with them is the intimate time with them versus like we're going to spend all day together for 10 hours a day because you just run out of things to talk about.
Well, and beyond that, I've dated some very interesting, nice, wonderful people, but
right.
I don't want to. I like having my own things. I like having something to talk with them about when we come together. I imagine a lot of people are like, living room's mine, bedroom's yours. Like,
I think overall, anyone who's in a performance industry, we like a lot of people. And we like different people. We like going places and performing and then talking to people and be like, oh, this is the person from Montana, or this is what people from New York are like, or Florida, or whatever. And you don't have any of it right now because you can't go anywhere, you know? And it's very funny because I think overall you got to spice it up one way or another, whatever that is. I would be interested to see if there's a lot of role play going on right now.
I actually did read an article about this. I didn't include it. I almost sent it. It was on Playboy.
Okay.
And it's about how Yandy, which is lingerie retail, online lingerie.
I have watched that from Yandy, yes.
They had huge upticks in sales because couples are buying these role play outfits because they just want to do something different and fun, and and when you're stuck with somebody, you're forced to communicate. So maybe some of these fantasies are coming out that people haven't necessarily talked about.
Right.
So I thought that I actually almost included that article. So
yeah.
We'll bring that up
next week.
Exactly. But yeah, so it's definitely affecting relationships. And I think that it's also affecting business, which is kind of leads into our next article.
Right.
So a lot of people know about the SBA loans and kind of stimulus packages that's going on here in America. But to give you kind of a brief rundown, the SBA loan is the Paycheck Protection Program. And basically what that does is if you're an independent contractor or you are a LLC like my company, it gives you money to pay your employees. If you use more than 75% of that to pay your employees, the loan's forgiven. And it's an incredibly generous stimulus package. However, there are some exclusions written into the law, actually a very specific exclusion in only one industry, and that is sex workers.
Right. Yeah.
Which is really disappointing because sex workers, like everybody else, they're running a business. This is a legal business in America. And pretty much, let me look up the exclusion right here just so I have it correct for you. Okay, so basically,
because I accidentally closed that one out. So
yeah, no
any of the numbers in front of me.
So while people that are self-employed or independent contractors are eligible for the loan, anybody that does live or recorded performances, or they receive more than 5% of their gross income from adult natured revenue, they're labeled ineligible for help. So owners of clubs, strippers, porn stars, sex therapist, erotic novelist, and honestly, like even our company could have been considered ineligible on some level. It are excluded from receiving these loans because they're deemed unmoral businesses. Which is absurd to me because they're moral enough for you to collect their tax dollars, but they're not moral enough for you to help in a stimulus package.
Yeah. It just, I think, overall shows how prudish our country is overall. And like we were talking about beforehand, I believe, and I am not 100% sure of this, but I do believe that it's not like it's cannabis is limited, which is not even legal on the federal level.
Correct.
So like we're talking about a legal industry on the federal level that is being excluded because of a belief system. And part of it might be that they wanted to protect people from like, I don't know, everybody going into the cam industry, I'm assuming, but like I'm sure the cam people are making more money than anything else because like people get bored after a while.
Oh, I'm sure the cam girls are doing
great.
real well right now.
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, we could probably talk to, I have a friend, my friend who's a cam girl. So
yeah.
We might even have her on the show.
We can have her on the show. Yeah.
And then we could get all the details when it comes to this.
Exactly. How it's going to affect. I'd be curious. Yeah, I'd be curious.
I would definitely be curious too. But like, I don't know. I'm just, this country can be weird at times.
Yeah.
I mean, this country can be weird at times in general when it comes to sex, not just during the COVID outbreak, but in general. Like I was watching, are you familiar with who Pete Davidson is? He's Pete Davidson's like the it guy on SNL. He's the guy who dated Ariana Grande for a while. And he did a comedy special that came out like a month ago. And he was talking about how, when they broke up, she went on the cover of Vogue and started like airing all their dirty laundry about like their sex life. And he was like, why is this acceptable? He's like, I'm willing to do it in my comedy special because like, if the girl's going to do it, then I have no ability. I don't see any reason for me not to. Now, I understand both sides of the story, but like, we're just a weird country when it comes to sex. But I think some of that is also that men and women are different and it's always going to be weird because of that balance.
Yeah. And I think it's also eliminating sex workers it's one of the few areas that people are still okay discriminating against, right?
Right.
And so the left and the right can agree, not those immoral people. And it was something that probably allowed them to get the bill passed quicker.
Right.
And while I'm sure we have representatives who support sex workers, it's not a super popular platform. And it's not a platform a lot of politicians are going to put themselves on a ledge for, which is really unfortunate because at the end of the day, it's kind of a feminist issue in a lot of ways, because we're being judged for using our bodies in a way that is deemed immoral. But there's a whole range of sex work, right? You have cam girls, you have strippers, you have escorts, you have sugar babies, you have like this like whole range of people, and not everybody is.
And I mean, like, also it's like sex sells. So it's like, at the same time, like, anyone in the music industry who wears like sexy clothes, like, they're not sex workers in terms of like they're grinding on someone, but they're wearing something sexy to sell something. We still use sex all the time to sell stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's also kind of there's just so many weird things about this exclusion, and it's just reinforces an unfortunate reality that these women that work in this industry really have to take care of themselves and take care of each other because the government isn't going to do it, even in a time of crisis like this.
So I have a friend who writes for a comedy show, and he's written for the show for 12 years now. And he jokes that like over the course of the 12 years that he's written for this show, he has written like 10,000 dick jokes because it's a show that's, their target audience is like 18 to 24. So he's like, I've just read written like thousands and thousands and thousands of dick jokes. So when this came out, he was like, this is ridiculous. He's like, I've made money off of sex because I'm writing dick jokes. He's like, but I'm going to get my stimulus package. And then like the people who are doing the sex work, it's this, it's just, we're just weird. Like that's,
it's such a fine line, it's kind of like how I said, our company produces burlesque shows, right? Well, I got the stimulus, I got the loan, I got the and how is that different than the women who work in clubs and things like that?
Right. It's not.
It's not. The difference is in the audience, not the performer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But with that, some strip clubs are coming up with some very creative ways of getting through this crisis. Especially one club in Portland called Lucky Devils. Do you have this article pulled up, Kat?
I do. This one I have not closed off. So
okay,
it's good. The nice thing about people in the sex industry is that they're very smart most of the time, and they see opportunities when they can find it. And this is a Portland club that first started out as a different, like a competitor to Uber, and they called it Boober Eats. Boober Eats, right?
They called it Boober Delivery, I believe is what it was called. Boober Delivery.
Boober Delivery. So it was like a delivery where they used the dancers as the delivery, so that you would have the option of having a hot girl show up with your food.
Who wore pasties to deliver it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then I guess they got a cease and desist from Uber very quickly after that.
Oh, maybe that's why they're Boober Delivery now.
Oh, they were Boober Eats.
They were Boober Eats. Now they're Boober Delivery. Those tricky little guys.
Right, exactly. So now they've created a drive-through strip club, pretty much. So you pay $30, can order any food from their item menu. You pull up in the car, and there's a full show with dancers in masks. They do a song or two for each car, and they send you on your way to get your food. And then there are tip jars that you can throw money into.
And you'll see in the photo that we have, they actually have these little like tip bucket things that are extendable. They can take to the car to get tips from the people in the car. I love it.
I love it.
I love it. Okay, so you have to
Portland. It's so Portland.
It's so Portland. You have to get delivery anyways or take out anyways. Right. Why not support these artists? Why not enjoy it? One of the things I love most about Portland as a city is that they love their strippers there. They love them.
There are more strip clubs per capita in Portland than anywhere else in the country.
And they treat them really well. They treat their strippers really well in Portland. It's not like they're bottom of society. No, these women are stars.
Well, I love Portland overall because they're like the Dutch. They're very open about everything. So like you're at a bar, you're talking to somebody, and they're like, oh, this is my girlfriend and this is my boyfriend. And they're like, right, it's like there's no hiding anything. Everybody's just very casual and open. And also I feel like it's a city where people define themselves by this sexuality too, very often. Last time I was in Portland last year in April, I was at a coffee shop and I was listening to these people, and it was two people, and they were talking about joining a crew team, where you row and you like the sculling thing. And the guy was like, oh, I really want to like have an LBGQT row team. And I was like, of course you do, because you're in Portland. Because like you have a row team, it's got to be one that's defined by your sexuality, because how could you not?
How could you not? Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a very Portland thing. And I think the great thing about it is that it's keeping positivity out there. It's making people smile. It's keeping dancers working who, as we mentioned, are not covered the same way by the stimulus package as everyone else is.
And I think overall, like one of the things that you and I can both relate to is when you're an entertainer, you love to entertain people. It doesn't matter if you have clothes on and off or off. You just want to go out and make people smile. Like that's why people get into entertainment, because they like people and because they want to entertain them, And I can say a couple weeks ago, I felt like a lot of my artist friends on Facebook were starting to go insane because they were all doing these live streams, and like they just it can be hard if it's not like you're a nerdy tech person that doesn't want to talk to anybody. You're the person who wants to talk to everybody, and there's nobody to talk to because you're quarantined at home. So like having these people have an opportunity to perform is giving them the ability to do what they were meant to do why they were put on this planet.
Yeah, and honestly, they're practicing social distancing. The girls are wearing masks while they're performing.
Oh, it's very Burning Man-esque.
Yeah. It's like they're following all the rules. And in my view, it's like, good on you. You figured out a way to keep this going. I personally would love to see something like this pop up here in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I think Vegas has kind of weird vice laws because our city works very hard to protect the industries that make it run, like gambling and stripping and stuff like that. So I don't know if I would be able to get this going without the prop, but I bet some strip clubs could figure out a way to make this happen here in Vegas if they really want.
I'm sure. And there's plenty of land in Vegas. Somebody can set up something somewhere.
I know. I don't know. I would go.
You know that they're now starting to do these car raves. Have you seen this?
I have. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, why can't there be like a dancing rave to some degree? I don't know what it would be like, but there's got to be something that's like that.
Well, the longer this goes on, the more creative I'm sure people will get in coming up with ways to
I mean, we all got to get inventive because like you can only sit at home for so long.
Yeah, I think I've hit my wall. I think I've decided I'm going to start working whether people are paying me for it or not at this point. I can't.
Oh yeah, like I mean, God bless the Vampire Diaries because like that's been my entertainment for like the last week. But like I can only watch hot people on the CW for so long, you know?
Exactly. So I guess that means we'll be coming back during quarantine. Yes.
Perhaps.
Why not? What else do we have to do?
I mean, it gives us an excuse to put on makeup. So
exactly. I showered today. I put on makeup. This is
you can't see it, but I'm wearing my high heels because it's like my only every time I do something where I have to be like dressed up, I put on my high heels because I want to remember what it's like to wear them.
I know I'm gonna get them on and like walk like a baby giraffe after this is over. I don't remember how it goes.
I mean, you know, just.
But I think that's it. That's this week's episode of Better Than Sex. If you want to find us on all the social medias at WTT Burley, we will be coming back with more content. We're going to be getting websites done and all this stuff as we get this back up and running after our 2.5 year hiatus.
Yeah. And if you're also looking for some fun burlesque to watch, we have a ton of that on the YouTube page.
Yes, and you don't have to wait for a live stream. There's how many like hundreds of videos on there?
Hundreds. I mean,
and some of them with like millions of views. So
that one with Miss Miranda.
Yeah, so that's they can find us WTT Burley on YouTube.
Yep.
We'll be posting this there. We'll be posting this on iTunes, and we will be back, I think, next week with another episode of Better Than Sex.
Cool, awesome.
Great. All right, bye guys.
Bye.